And it's Wyatt Elliott from Notebook Entertainment.
And you're watching Review This.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
It stinks.
We are here to talk about the new Netflix movie, Choose or Die. It was, overall, it was okay.
Yeah, the premise is cool.
I really like the premise.
But the movie feels like it's like 20 years too late.
Yeah.
To me,
and especially after the release of Bandersnatch, and that was audience participation. I felt like if they could have figured out how to do that with this movie where we make the choices, it would have been way better.
It would have been amazing, actually.
And I understand that's a lot of work. And
it is. And a lot more
it's asking
money.
a lot, yeah.
The movie didn't feel like it was very big budget. So,
no.
But maybe the
Well,
sequel.
that's because we did report on this movie on Horrorland News back in when things were coming out of the festival circuits and stuff and getting picked up. When we talked about it, though, it was still called by its original title, called Kris R.
Oh, I didn't realize that was that movie.
Yep, which is the name of the game in
It
Choose or
is.
Die. Yeah.
Okay. That's why that seemed familiar.
Yeah, we had already talked about this movie and how it got picked up by Netflix out of the festival circuit.
Nice.
So that was one of our past stories.
See, I don't remember thinking.
I don't know why Netflix decided to change the name. I think Kris R sounds cooler than Choose or Die.
But I'm thinking they're thinking what? You know, you're sifting through Netflix, you see Choose or Die. If you liked Truth or Dare, if you liked...
Yeah,
what
but
are some of
still,
other
at the
ones?
same thing, you see Choose or Die, part of me really feels like I would be audience participating. Like, okay, I gotta pick
That's
A or
true.
B or whatever, you know?
I guess that's true. I guess it's a little deceptive when you put it that
Right.
way.
So yeah, it's got a really good premise. I think it just falls short a little bit, and I'm not even really sure how or why. But maybe we'll figure it out as we go through.
Yeah.
So let's start with cast, like we always do. Acknowledge the cast. Iola Evans plays our main girl, Kayla. Asa Butterfield is Isaac, and I understand he's in like one of those teen movies or something that went really big, like The Love You Give or something like that.
Okay.
One of those movies. Hal is played by Eddie Marsan. Laura is played by Kate Fleetwood. Gabe is played by Pete McHale. Thea is played by Angela Griffin. Lance by Ryan Gage. And Robert Englund plays himself, but only in voice. We don't see him at all. Very disappointing that they're like, and starring Robert Englund, and then it's like, oh, just his voice, though. Kayla's our main girl. We follow her. I think she did okay.
She did what she needed to do.
Yeah.
She filled the part.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong
and it
with
could
that.
be something with the script, too, that just didn't make us connect to her.
Yeah. I don't think the characters are very fleshed out.
No, I think the script might have needed another pass. Maybe that's one of the issues. Isaac is her friend who's clearly got a crush on her, and he's a video game programmer, so that's him. Hal is the first player, and we're going to talk about him right away when we get to the plot. He's the first player that plays Kris R. And then Laura's his wife, and Gabe is his son, and yeah, we'll get into that. All right, so plot. We start with Hal. He's married, but his family looks like it's kind of dysfunctional. The wife and son are like arguing and stuff at the dinner table. I don't even remember what about.
Nah, yeah, and then he like sneaks away.
He sneaks away and clearly like he's stuck in the past. He likes things from the past. Like,
nothing wrong with that.
Truth.
You're right, because it looks like he has like an old computer to play old games on.
But when your
stuff.
family life is falling apart because you prefer to immerse yourself in the past, I mean, so he puts in the game, this new game that he is called Kris R. And the game starts influencing like things in his real life. Like it asked him to make choices, and it was like coffee or no coffee or something, or beer or no beer. That's what it was. I think it was beer or no beer, and he's like beer, and then a beer appeared.
It changed, physically manifested in front of him. And also to put in perspective, the game is one of those old DOS green screen games.
You have to type in the commands.
Yeah.
So the game starts upping the choices and making them a little more difficult, and he's like, what? And then all of a sudden it's like his tongue or her ear or something like that, and he's like, I don't know. So he tries to run to go check on his family or whatever, but the game lets out like a sound or something because he like grabs his ears and like falls. Yeah, it was unpleasant. It was worse than the old AOL startup dial tone thing. So he finally gets to the computer and makes a choice, and when we go out, we see that his choice was the tongue because his wife had cut his son's tongue out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we jump over to Kayla, who, she's poor. She works as a cleaning person for this building that seems like completely empty.
Right. It's very empty.
She has a drug-addicted mother, who's grieving, like I said before, she's grieving the loss of Kayla's brother. And the landlord is giving drugs to her mom to keep her down and then, like, prostituting her in order for her to not get kicked out of the apartment. And he's such a scumbag. Like, I was like, this guy needs to die.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fucking Lance. So yeah, basically Kayla's life sucks. She gets selected for her work group or whatever, and then she goes and rides her bike across town to her friend Isaac's house. And Isaac is a video game developer. He's trying to develop his first game. And he has a character that he designed to look like her, but he doesn't want her to see it.
Yes.
Right.
But he made her a superhero, so,
yeah.
you know.
And he's, I think, a junk hunter. He likes to go out and collect old computer parts and stuff, and then reuse them and refurbish them. And she does the same because she's like, hey, I'll take this and I'll clean it for you.
I have friends like that. I know exactly those type of people.
So in this newest box of stuff that he had just acquired, she's digging through to check out what he's got, and there's the Kris R game. Mm-hmm. So she reads it and realizes, hey, there's a $125,000 prize. Well, when you're super poor, that's a lot of money, you know?
That's a lot of money anyways.
Right. Well, we're super poor.
Yeah.
So, so she calls the number because she's like, hey, there's a bunch of these old prizes that have never claimed, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, there's all kinds.
And this is, I remember this. And back in the Atari days, I remember there was a game that actually offered a prize if you were able to get a certain high score or something. And there was also games like this that did it. There was also comic books had things in the back that, you know, and some of them were good until somebody found it. Yep. And I remember in the 90s hearing about somebody found something that was promised in the 60s or whatever, you know.
Pay up.
Yep.
Unless there's an expiration date, pay up.
Pay up, exactly.
So yeah, they call the number and it's Robert Englund's voice telling them spooky stuff about the contest and that they have to play the game to win the $125,000, whatever. She doesn't know who the fuck Robert Englund is because he's freaking out. He's like, it's Robert Englund, it's Robert. She's like, who? And this is the most frustrating scene. Like, I don't know why they couldn't say fucking Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
But he goes out of his way to try and tell her who Robert Englund is without fucking mentioning the movie.
Or Freddy Krueger.
Or Freddy Krueger. Yeah, I don't think he says Freddy Krueger either. Like,
they must have been afraid, I guess, of copyright.
Why would you not just say, oh, he's Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the biggest fucking movie, like...
Yeah, I don't know. Robert Englund is synonymous with Freddy Krueger. Like, how do you not have... Anytime he's on a talk show or interview...
Okay, but even if she doesn't know who Robert Englund... She lives under a rock, her mom's drug addict, she's got bigger problems. She doesn't know who Robert Englund is. She has to know who Freddy is. Like, he's so permeated in our culture.
And that's why it's frustrating, because the guy definitely knows who he is.
Yeah, he goes out of his way. He's like, he's holding up, he's like, he won't even say, like, knife fingers, I don't think. He's just like,
so. Yeah, it's really weird.
Dude, this scene is weird.
Yeah. Sometimes there's being too safe.
Right. Weird. So they agree that they're going to meet later at a cafe after she gets off work or whatever, and they're going to start playing the game. Later on, they're at the cafe, or she's at the cafe. He doesn't show up because he winds up getting wrapped up in his video game coding or whatever. So she's like, fuck it, and starts the game. And again, it starts her with like easy choices. And I noticed, I was like, look, the menu changed next to her. Because, because I read everything on screen. She does. So the menu changed to only the options, which was like coffee or tea or something like that. I don't remember. But there were only two options. And so she chose one. It was coffee. I think she chose coffee. And then the waitress was there pouring coffee or something like that.
Right. And that's like, okay, coincidence?
Right. And then she looked at the menu again and it was back to the normal menu. So she's like, okay. So then again, it ups it. And finally, the waitress, like, drops a glass or whatever. And they're like, the choice, I think this was in the trailer. And the choice was like, clean it up or keep breaking glass or whatever. And she's like, clean it up. So this poor waitress drops to her knees on this broken glass and starts shoving shards of glass in her mouth.
That's awful. And she says
she
I
can't stop.
Yeah.
Right, because she goes and she tries to like block her mouth for her and pull her hand away, but the waitress is like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
And the game tries to stop her from helping the waitress too, because there's like the owner is passed out in a booth or something, and when she gets up to go try and help, he springs to and he lets out that noise.
Yeah, it like possesses everybody around you
right.
or something. Like I don't know, they don't ever explain how
that's
it works.
I think that's another problem is there's not enough explanation of what the rules are here.
No. It can do anything.
So
really.
so I think that's another problem with why maybe we aren't gelling with it is when you can do anything, well, fuck, anything's possible then.
Right.
Who cares?
It makes it hard to beat, without rules.
Exactly.
It makes it hard to even, write the story. You can,
right.
there's no way the audience can keep up with, why don't you try this? How are we supposed to guess?
Exactly.
And, what will we do in that situation?
Yeah, we need to understand the rules, too, you guys. You can't just be in your heads. You have to write them on the paper. Mm-hmm. So Isaac doesn't really believe her like he says he does, but he doesn't really believe her. And she destroys the game. I think she pulls the tape or something out of it.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. The game is on a tape cassette, which is not that far-fetched, because back in the old days, they did make games on tape cassette. I had some as a kid. Yeah, I'm old. But so I want to bring that up. So some of you young people out there watching that think that's a little weird. It's not.
No, it's true.
It's true.
So yeah, she destroys it by pulling the tape out. And she goes to work thinking, okay, cool, it's over. But then I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning is when she started the game. So every day at 1 a.m. is the next round. So she's at work, and the game must have gotten into the internet or something, because it starts up on this lone computer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, I think it pops up on the walls or something,
or
and then it directs her to this one computer.
That's what it was.
To make her choice. And it turns out that she's making choices. She thinks she's helping her mom because it's got her mom in their apartment, and it's like a maze, and there's this giant killer rat.
Yeah.
And so she thinks she's trying to direct her mom to get out of the apartment, but really she's the rat. So she figures it out, and so she's trying to tell her mom, she's trying to move the rat so that her mom can get out. But again, here's another thing where there's no rules. She directs the rat to go in the kitchen because it tells her choose a room or whatever. And so she's kitchen. So she puts the rat in the kitchen, and then she tells her mom, she's like, Mom, go, it's in the kitchen. Her mom comes out of the bedroom, and the rat moves to block her without her making a choice. So where's the rule there?
Yeah, it should be.
She has to say it to move the rat.
Yes, and it doesn't. It's not like any other role-playing game I've ever played.
Right.
It's a point system. It's a turn-based system. It's not Pac-Man, and that's I don't know.
Exactly. If she
sense.
didn't say for the rat to move, or she didn't make a choice for the rat to move, it shouldn't have moved.
I don't think so either.
So anyway, her mom goes back in the bedroom, and she tells her mom basically jump out the window, which her mom does because the rat bursts through the doors. Huge. It must have been a huge ass rat.
Yeah.
We never see it.
No. We couldn't afford that rat.
Right. So, her mom goes to the hospital. She survives, but she's in the hospital now. So, Kayla goes back to the apartment, and yeah, sure enough, there's a lot of damage that proved there was a giant rat there, including a giant hole in the bedroom door. So Lance, the landlord, shows up, because he always shows up at the worst possible moment in this girl's life.
He does. He really does, too.
Right?
It's like he's just waiting.
Such a dirtbag.
He's just waiting.
So he shows up and he's like, that sucks. This is a lot of damage. You're never going to be able to afford this and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'll pay you $20 for sex. Or he's like, I'll go up to 20 for sex or something. And she basically tells him to fuck off and she leaves. So Isaac, now that her mother is, this all happened and she tells Isaac what happened, he kind of does believe her. And so they decide that they're going to wait it out till 1 a.m. when the next level starts. Or 2 a.m. I really don't remember the time. And they're going to try and play the game together. And while they're waiting, they're sitting there eating noodles, throwing noodles at each other, and being cute young people. And talking about, loopholes in gaming code and stuff. Which, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., whatever a.m., the game starts up, and it asks them to choose two doors appear in his apartment, and it's red and blue, and it asks them red or blue. And he's all like, well, in video games, go through the blue door, because red means bad.
It's true. It's true.
So she puts her head up to the door, and there's noises, or growling sounds behind the blue door. So because of the growling behind the blue door, they pick the red door. And it's a bunch of hallways that, I guess fog starts coming or something. She sees her dead brother, and so she takes off after her dead brother, and her and Isaac kind of get separated. She's led to a pool, which turns out that's where her brother died, was at this pool. Because she looked away for like a minute or something. And I'm like, well, that's why you shouldn't have your kids babysit your other kids. Like,
right. Especially in that
how childcare should be affordable so that you do not have to have your children watching your other children.
No,
like,
children should not be watching children.
Right. As the oldest sibling, I say children should, because that was my job.
As the youngest sibling, I'll say children should be watching children.
So we got it both ways.
Right.
I will say, being in charge was probably a lot more fun than being watched, though.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Being the one that's like, no, you do what I say.
Right.
I love you, my sister. Okay. So, anyway, back to this. So they're in the pool. Okay, so Isaac gets pulled under this fog or whatever, and she goes in. And there's Isaac and her brother laying there, and I'm like, it tells her to choose which life to save or whatever. I'm like, bitch, choose Isaac, because your brother is definitely really dead. Like,
Right.
he's already dead. Pick Isaac. And she seriously stands there and, like, thinks about it for a minute. Like, I get the trauma and stuff, but, like...
Well, again, though, she doesn't have any more clue than we do as the
right.
audience about
If she chose her brother, would it be able to bring him back to life?
Right. Does he resurrect the dead? And if he does, is he a zombie?
We don't know.
Is he a demon? We don't know.
We don't know, because they didn't outline the rules of this game at all.
So I can sort of understand her, like, well, maybe, you know, like,
I mean...
how much,
I could date anybody, but that's my brother.
Who's this guy?
Anyway, she winds up picking Isaac, and as she's dragging him away, her little brother gets up and starts attacking her. And the game basically makes her smother her own brother with her own hands, just to, like, fuck with her head more. Like,
right, what is this game?
Well,
like,
I think that was the point where we were like,
game?
what the fuck is this that we're watching?
Right. Is this a game designed just to ruin this woman's life?
Right.
Just like to make her, okay, you already need therapy? You need more?
Yeah. Here's 30 years more of therapy you're gonna need.
Like, what is this?
Oh my god. She meets up with him and he's like, hey, so I was able to trace the phone number or whatever from that they called to get Robert Englund's voice.
Right.
And so that they were able to get coordinates from that. And so they go to check out, and it's, of course, an abandoned warehouse, because that's what it always is. And they go inside, and they find this, like, computer setup, and they watch a video, and it's the inventor of Curse R. His name's Beck. And he found this, like, I don't know if it's, like, a magic runes or something, and he put those in the code of the game, so that the person suffering, the person playing the game, when they suffer, it's a benefit to him, the person who owns the game. So, like, they show a test subject in another room, and he has that person play the game. And so they have to choose something. And it was like, go hungry or eat something unedible or whatever. And he chose eat the something unedible. And so he starts shoving it in his mouth, and he can't stop. Well, before he did that, Beck had cut his arm. And as this guy is, like, killing himself, basically, his arm starts to heal. Beck's arm starts to heal. So that's the proof that whatever this symbol or this code that he's put into the game, that's the magic or whatever.
So, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, if you can clarify that any more than I can.
No, I can't. That is what happened, and that is what it said. It still doesn't explain why or anything. I guess you're just
magic.
Yeah. I guess you're just supposed to just accept
magic
it.
rune.
It's one of those movies that you just have to kind of accept the premise and then just go for the ride.
So, for whatever reason, the game, like, I guess Beck or the game or somebody knows that they're there, and so they're trying to copy the code so that they can get this code and extract it, and they're hoping to somehow, I'm not a technical person, so a lot of that part of the movie was really lost on me. But Isaac winds up getting caught up in another choice that she has to make or whatever, and it's rewind or fast forward. So basically, there was no way that Isaac wasn't going to die here.
No.
But she gets to choose which way he died, I guess. So she chooses fast forward or rewind. I think she chooses rewind first. And this, like, film spool starts coming out of his mouth. And then she's like, oh, shit. And so she chooses fast forward, and then it starts going in reverse. And she's like, oh, shit. And I think he begs at one point. He's like, fast forward to try and get it all over with or whatever. So she goes to fast forward, and it ends with him dying. It was a really weird death.
Yeah. I don't know, like, it reminds me of some of the deaths that I've seen in some of the Ring movies and stuff where they just die of... Maybe it's not the ring. I'm trying to think what...
Yeah, no, because the ring was they just show up.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah. It was familiar, I guess is what I'm saying. I'd seen it before somewhere, but it didn't make sense to me in whatever movie that was either. I don't like just random films coming out of his...
Just cut his head off. Like,
yeah, I don't... It was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it.
It was weird. So anyway, that's like the penultimate round because now the game is telling her that she has to go beat the boss. So that's the final round, is beat the boss. And it gives her another set of coordinates or whatever. So she goes, and it's this giant mansion. And I swear to God, it's the one they used in Big Fat Liar because the pool outside looked the same. But because when we were up there, I was like, wait a minute, that looks like the pool from Big Fat Liar.
It very well could have been. I can't help her there.
I don't know. It's what it was since I saw that movie. But it really did. So she goes inside, and there's Hal sitting down for dinner with his family, Laura and Gabe. And Gabe and Laura do not look well. Like, there's scars, and he's got a thing across his mouth because she cut his tongue out, you know. So clearly, over the years, they've been suffering in order for Hal to
play this stupid game.
Well, in order for Hal to... Because that's what the whole thing of the game is other people suffering is what gives you. So that's how he got rich. That's how he's so healthy, and they look like shit and all this stuff. So he's been gaining at his family's expense. So they get in there, and the game is like, choose him or you or something like that. And turns out that what it is like, say I'm Kayla and he's Hal. If I want to hurt Hal, I have to like hit myself, and then it would hurt him there. So that's what it is. And they figure it out, and then Laura kind of sees what's happening, and she's like, oh, shit. And so she starts going after Kayla to try and get to Hal. The son, winds up with a gun at some point, and he's shooting Hal, which is hurting Kayla. And so his mom's like, no. And so it comes down to, like, I think he's, like, choking her, or they fall in the pool or something, and she manages to shoot Kayla. I don't know. It was basically, we're sitting there waiting to see which one of them was going to die first.
Basically, yeah.
And it turned out it's him, so Kayla survives, her eyes open from the bottom of the pool or whatever, and she gets out. And Laura agrees to be like, yeah, you were never here. I don't know who the fuck you are. Get out. We just wanted Hal gone. Like,
yeah.
So they're cool. So she's now the winner of the game. So she's now got basically what Hal had. But she decides to use the game to go after Lance, which I'm like, fucking finally. And
wait,
so
the whole movie for this.
Right. So she finally goes after this asshole, and he gets taken care of. It turns out that the empty building that she had been working for cleaning is owned by Beck, the guy who created Hers R. And he sends her a message that's like, who's gonna suffer next? And she's like, everyone who deserves, or only people who deserve it, or something, and then that's the end of the movie.
She's gonna become not a martyr, but a
mercenary.
Yeah, and use it to kill bad people, basically.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of bad people in the world, especially in her universe.
Right.
And so she's gonna, and so you're left to assume that okay, she's figured it out. Now she's gonna use it to benefit herself and destroy it.
Because that's the other thing is when Lance dies, her wounds and her mother's wounds start healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's clearly that it's working for her now. It's working in her benefit now.
Which isn't a terrible ending, isn't a bad way to end it. The movie's fine. You know, the movie...
Yeah, it's a perfectly watchable movie.
Yes, it wasn't boring. It wasn't, laughable or anything. It just wasn't detailed enough,
it did keep our attention. But yeah, you're right. It's the details. And I think going through the plot, that's what we've narrowed it down to. Is it needed more details. It needed more rules to establish what is and isn't in this world. It
felt like somebody had played those old games and then just decided, hey, let's make a horror movie about it, and it affects your real life without really setting up the rules, its origins, or anything. Yeah. And you know what? There's plenty of horror movies that do that, and that's fine. You just have to be willing to accept it and enjoy the ride.
Yep.
And I just felt that because of that, this movie, as we said earlier, it hurts the interaction watching it because you as the audience have no idea what this thing is capable of.
Right, you're like, wait a minute, they just did what?
Yeah, like when she's choosing between her little brother and her boyfriend, it's like, well, if it can resurrect the dead, then the brother.
Right.
You know, but
fuck that guy. Like,
right. I mean, but then it's like, but wait a minute. If he brings him back, is he demonic little omen?
right?
Kid?
Is he gonna come back like Pet Cemetery?
Yeah,
Like, what are we
what
doing
is
here?
this? So-
What are we doing here?
Yeah. So that's the problem. But
Yeah. It's a very good idea. It's poor execution. I think it just probably even one more pass on the script might have solved a lot of it.
And I guess you could look at it like, okay, the girl Kayla, she doesn't know how this thing works either. So we're in the same
No, but we as the audience throughout should get an explanation. Like,
I agree with you. I'm just trying to justify it. But I think that you're right. I think that as she experienced it, she should have learned more about it. Therefore, we should have learned more about it.
Right.
And then we know more. So,
yeah. And that's
all.
Yeah, and I just, again, I think I'm going to end with saying, I think if they had taken their time and figured out how to make this interactive, like the Bandersnatch movie, I think even as written, it would have been a more enjoyable experience, because then you're feeling more engaged.
Like, yeah, exactly. For instance, the puzzle box in Hellraiser. We all know you solve the puzzle, it opens the gate to hell, and they're going to show up. And they're going to come get you and drag you to hell, because that's the whole point of it. So we all know that. It doesn't take, it takes 2 seconds to set it up for everybody. We all know it. We all love it. You know, and when you're writing this stuff and you can make it up whatever you want it to be, like look at the Marvel movies with Doctor Strange. It's batshit insane, crazy, but we kind of understand what the rules are.
Exactly.
And that's
even
all.
though there's it's endless rules, we still know what they are.
Yes,
Like,
because they constantly
are telling us.
Telling
yes.
you.
So yeah, that's about it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you like horror movies and you don't have much else to watch, it's a short movie.
Yeah, it's not a bad time.
It's not a bad time. Give it a watch, but it's not great.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's not going on anybody's, top 10 lists or anything anytime soon, probably, but
probably not anybody's worst list.
No, I wouldn't see it on a worst list. I don't think it was that bad.
No. All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Choose or Die.
Choose or Die. Or Cursor.
Cursor. Cursor, whatever.
Cursor, however you want to say
However
it.
you want to say it.
I like Cursor.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe so you get more of these review videos. We have a review of Doctor Strange coming up. And can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, oh my god, it was so good.
But we're going to take a breather and talk about that tomorrow.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess I'm going to shut up now.
All right. Good night, good fright, guys.
Bye.